Hello. I don't know if this is really working, but I'm going to assume that it is. Hi. First off, most importantly, how do I sound versus how I sounded on the old computer? Because one of the big purported upsides of this new computer is that it's going to be better. So hopefully it'll be better. I hear a lot of fan noise, not to be critical, but we'll see. So yeah, let me know how it sounds. Zeb asks, is there anything to do here in Indiana during the lockdown? I don't know. Zeb, I haven't left my house in like 40 days. I genuinely have not gone anywhere or done anything. Everybody says it sounds good except for one person who says that there's a lot of echoes, which is not something I know how to fix. There is some echo in the audio. Could it be that you have two streams open? Could it be me? Am I the problem? Should I put on mic? There's a strange echo / noise. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Some people were positive, and then other people have been very negative. Not that it's bad to be negative, because if it's echoey, it's echoey. It's a crappy microphone. But I paid extra for the good microphone. All right, let me try to... now's probably not the time to learn Bluetooth. But yeah, I think that there's a certain amount of echo that goes away, is a function of the fact that I'm in a large room with minimal soundproofing, because that's where I chose to put my studio when we moved into this house. So yeah, I mean, I'm not, a tech YouTuber. I'm a 2007 YouTuber. In my mind, all of this should be in 240p, and I should have to scream for you to hear my voice in the first place. There's a bit of an electronic fizz after you talk. Oh, that I like. I want that. I'm in favor of that. Yes, I do also record Vlogbrothers in here. Also, lots of people say that the sound on Vlogbrothers is echoey, even though I use a much nicer microphone. I bought this computer because it was recommended by Linus Tech Tips. So if you have a problem with it, take it up with him. All right. So I'm going to, any money that you donate via Super Chat, we'll just send to support COVID efforts to combat COVID in the poorest countries in the world, just so you know where that money goes. In the end, the coronavirus pandemic is almost certainly going to, it's already disproportionately affecting vulnerable people, but in the end, it's probably going to disproportionately affect people who live in poverty, especially in places with impoverished healthcare systems. And so that's where our non-local aid is being directed. Our local, for Sarah and me, our local community is Indianapolis, but that's not the case for many of you. If you can, I hope you'll join us in giving to your local food banks or other places that are working with people whose lives have been disrupted by this. Thanks for being here. It's nice to talk with you. Ashley asked if this pandemic is triggering to my OCD. I mean, yeah, but I mean, so is everything. I've lived with anxiety problems and obsessive compulsive disorder my whole life. So yes, I'm definitely still living with it, and it's worse now than it has been in the past, but it's not the worst it's ever been. So I guess in that sense, I'm lucky. But I do not have a brain that is perfectly designed for a disease pandemic. However, I am not going to let that stop me. I know that this will end, and I know that this is temporary, and I also know that what we're doing is very important. And that shared sense of meaning and that shared sense of endeavor that I have is very important to me, and it's helping me through this. So I hope it's helping you too. Yeah. So no, I'm not. My brain is not where I would like it to be. But to be fair, it often isn't. So that's just natural for me, and I'm doing okay, and I'm doing all the things I need to do to take care of myself. So I'm really lucky that I have access to virtual therapy and that I'm able to still get all of my medication. And as long as those supply chains work, I should be fine. I should be okay. Yeah, and I hope that you're doing okay wherever you are. I know this is a different kind of hard for every person, but I know it's hard for everybody. So I hope you're doing okay. So here's why I wanted to do a show today. I wanted to, somebody said puff levels are high. And maybe before we talk about what I'm going to talk about today, we'll talk about that. I can't get a haircut because I can't leave the house. And that is a problem that a lot of humans are sharing right now. It's a very small problem in the scheme of the problems. But I don't know what's going to happen in like 6 weeks. Like my hair has never, my hair will go to new places. New things will happen. One nice thing is that because I didn't dye my hair, even though I kind of wanted to before all of this started, because there's a lot of pepper in this salt. There's a lot of salt. There's a lot of salt in this pepper. One good thing is that I didn't do that. So I'm not like growing in lots of salt and pepper roots. Okay. So here's the thing. I want to read to you. I want to read to you something that I've been working on for a long time. Not a long time, a couple of years. And it's just a thing. It's not finished. It's not even close to finished. It's not even like a year or two away from being finished. It takes me a long time to write anything. And also, like, a lot of this will probably change. Don't share it if that's okay. At least don't share it outside of Nerdfighteria. Like, I'm going to make this an unlisted video afterwards, and it's fine to, like, if you want to send it to a friend who you think would be interested in it or have an opinion about it, that's fine. Also, I'll probably read your comments later after I read. So bear that in mind when you're writing them. And thanks for anything that you say. But I'm doing this because there is no time like the present, and right now it feels like there is no time but the present. And it's kind of helpful to me to talk about it and read it and see your responses. It helps me to think about what should happen in the first draft. Again, I know writers always say this, first draft got a long way to go. There are a lot of problems with it. But yeah, this is a story called The Junket, and it's about two kids who are in a movie that's about to come out. One of them has really never been in a movie before. They're both like 20, but they're playing teenagers. And one of them has never been in a movie before, and the other has been in like some Nickelodeon shows, done some like child acting, but this is like their first big movie. And they don't actually know each other that well because most of the movie, they weren't together, like they didn't film at the same times. But because they're kind of the young co-stars of the movie, they're now being thrust into the same place at the same time, and there's a lot of pressure on them. So I think when the story starts, I'm not sure about this, but right now when the story starts, they are on a private plane flying from New York to Los Angeles. Juniper and I were sitting across from each other on the plane with a fold-out table and a sizable vase of flowers between us, such that Juniper's head seemed to be made of tightly bunched rosebuds. The flight attendant asked me if I wanted a glass of wine. I wasn't quite of legal drinking age, but even modest celebrity is a kind of adulthood. I said I'd love to try the red, and she poured, the wine not splashing into the glass, but swirling into it. And I took a sip as the flight attendant looked at me expectantly. "It's great," I told her, and she said, "I'm so glad you like it." And Juniper said, "When I die, please bury me with this plane." And Katie, the publicist, said, "If you want to own a plane like this, Juniper, you better do Gods of Andromeda." And Juniper said, "Ah, the eternal dilemma, to lose one's soul or lose one's plane." Juniper always talked like that. We went back to playing the card game Bullshit, two actors with pretty good reads on each other. After a while, Juniper said, "Will you run it with me? The Gods of Andromeda thing?" "Yeah," she said. "Sure," I said. I wanted to push the flowers out of the way. It seemed ridiculous to have a conversation without seeing each other, but I didn't do it for some reason. I guess they didn't seem like my flowers. Juniper scooted out from the table and came over to my side. Her hair was down over her face, and she was wearing sweatpants and a tank top, but neither looked particularly casual or comfortable. She took a sip of my wine and then asked, "May I have a glass of this?" And Janet, the acquisition specialist, leapt off the couch at the back of the plane to get the flight attendant to get Juniper some wine. Juniper pulled out some extremely folded paper from her sweatpants and handed it to me. It reminded me of a middle school love letter. I unfolded the pages and scanned the action. "You're, Mediv?" "I guess if I want this plane, I am," she said. "Mediv, guardian of the something, realm, dominion." I smirked and just went into it. "You dare interrupt the lawful trial of Agrippon? I fear I must strike this woman." "The orcs." There was gravel in her throat all of a sudden. "The orcs, my lord. They've laid waste to Kallenbath. What is not fire is ash. Our allies are gone. Our enemies are at the gate. The future is in doubt, and the past is buried in the ground, my lord. There is only time, and that time is now." Can it be? The time for questions has passed, Garon. The time of speaking has passed. We fight now, all of us. No trials, no tribes, no guilds, only man and orc. We fight for the Kallenbath that was, and we fight for the Kallenbath that shall yet be. "That was good," I said. "It makes me want to die," she answered. "Then maybe don't take it?" "Oh, she's taking it," said Katie, the publicist. "That movie's gonna shit money." Ellen, sitting next to her on the couch, agreed. Everyone with a pulse is trying to get into Gods of Andromeda one way or another. Brilliant director, massive budget, it's the next tentpole for Sony, and Katie is correct about it shitting money. It's going to get money norovirus. Thanks for that. Thanks for that notice that I didn't ask for, Dell. You're already wearing on my nerves a little bit. What was I reading? Brilliant director, massive budget. It's next tentpole for Sony, and Katie is correct about it shitting money. It's going to get money norovirus and shit money wallet pukes money. Juniper and I shared a look. "Would you do it?" she asked me. "Probably." I didn't tell her, but I was actually in the running for Garon's anxious little brother. I'd sent in a self-tape, and they liked it, and once they cast the leads, they wanted me to come in for a chemistry read. My agent, Bob, thought I had a good chance at it. "Everyone says Brian Lansing is brilliant," I said. Juniper rolled her eyes a little, but leaned into me, and I could smell her shampoo. "If he's so smart, why did he direct that X-Men movie?" "That X-Men movie made Buy This Plane money," Katie said. "Also, I liked it, but I didn't want to say anything." Studio Todd squeezed onto the couch between Janet and Kate and said, "Have you ever heard the moth joke? Jesus Christ, Todd, if you tell one more dad joke, I'm going to jump out of this plane." "So a moth flies into a cardiologist's office," Todd said. He had gray hair, but it was cut fashionably, and he always wore a very trim suit. Talked a lot, so I knew a lot about him. He had girls, both in college, which you wouldn't believe the cost. He woke up every morning at 5 a.m. and ran for exactly 5 miles and had been doing this 6 days a week since he was in high school. Told me once that he'd torn something in his knee and couldn't run for 6 months and glimpsed insanity. He told a lot of jokes. "So a cardiologist is a heart doctor, a doctor who works on hearts. We know what a fucking cardiologist is, Todd," said Katie. "The cardiologist says, 'What seems to be the problem, Moth?' And the Moth says, 'Ugh, Doc, if only there were one problem. My father's dead and I miss him terribly. I'm still a young moth and I don't know how to live in the world without him. My girlfriend, I guess she was my girlfriend, but I'm not even sure. She's gone completely mad and no longer even recognizes me. Worst of all, my mother has taken up with my uncle. I just feel so lost and alone, Doc. I don't even know if I want to go on living." And the cardiologist says, "Well, those are very serious problems, Moth. But it seems like you need to see a psychiatrist. I'm a cardiologist. What brought you here today?" And the Moth says, "Oh, the light was on." Only Juniper laughed, but she really laughed. It doesn't sound good for some people, but it sounds good for other people. Sorry that the audio. Oh, the audio is much better than it was. Most people are saying. Everybody loves the moth joke. All right, I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to read. This is the second part. When we landed in California, Katie, the publicist, wanted to take a picture of Juniper and me in front of the plane, but I said no because I couldn't have people in real life know that I was on a private plane. You Insta for your fans, not for your friends, said Katie, the publicist. I Insta for my friends, I said. And Juniper laughed. She took a step toward me and grabbed my hand. I love it. I love you. He's like the last truffula tree in Lorax land. Don't cut him down, Katie. Let him live. There were 2 black SUVs waiting for us. Juniper and Katie and Todd and Janet, the acquisition specialist, disappeared into one of them, and then Ellen and me got into the other. Our driver said his name was Al. Like Alvin? I asked. No, he said. I'm Kai, I said. Like Karate Kid? Yeah, exactly like it, I said. You don't sound like you're from LA, he said after a second. Beside me, Ellen was in her phone. The SUV didn't smell like one thing or another so much as it smelled overwhelming. I'm from Florida, I told him. My condolences, he said. Ellen handed me the phone. It was Juniper's Instagram, a picture of her and me holding hands with the plane in the background. Juniper posted this? If I had to guess, Katie posted it for Juniper. She said I was the last truffula tree in Lorax land, and then she cut me down? No need to be dramatic, Kai. It's Instagram. Ellen worked for the studio, while Katie worked for Juniper. Once you get famous enough, you get your own publicist. Juniper was getting famous enough. She was about to happen. That's what Ellen said. Ellen said people like Juniper don't know what's coming, but it's coming anyway. I was about to happen too, but not in the same way. Where in Florida? Al asked. On the Gulf side, near Sarasota. A lot of old people down that way. Yeah, I said. So, you from here? No, he said, I'm from Iran. You know Iran? Sure, I said. So you in a movie? Yeah. What movie? It's called Pro Patria Mori, I said. What's it about? I don't know. I haven't seen it. Ellen jumped in. It's about a major in the Marine Corps who returns home from a deployment overseas and begins caring for the daughter of a Marine in his platoon who died. Majors don't have platoons, I said. They have battalions. A Marine in his battalion who died, Ellen said. So who are you? Al asked. I'm the major's son. The movie's mostly about him and this girl, but in the movie, he kind of neglects me while taking care of this other girl, and I get kind of messed up. So you get kind of messed up, he said. Yeah, in the movie, I clarified. After a while, Al said, I meet a lot of actors. You ever met Keanu Reeves? Ellen asked. Sure, I met Keanu. Drove Keanu a few times. Nice guy. Quiet. Keanu's in the movie, Ellen said. I could hear Al smile. Keanu makes everyone smile. It's his superpower. That's great. Congratulations. So what are you doing next? I don't know, I said. I don't even know what I'm doing tonight. Al laughed. Outside, Los Angeles was tinted gray. I'd only been here a few times, twice to screen test for things I didn't get, and once to screen test for Pro Patria Mori. I lived in New York, or I guess I did. I'd been there since the movie wrapped. Before that, I'd been in Louisiana for a couple months for the movie, and before that, I'd spent a year in New York, and before that, I'd been in high school. I don't like to think too much about all that stuff, where you are in your life or in your career or where you live or whatever. It gives me a stomach ache. I get the same stomach ache when I look at the Google Calendar that Ellen made for me, laying out the 22 days between now and the movie's premiere, or when I think about what my brother is doing right now, or when I look at Instagram, or when the ATM asks if I want to see my bank account's balance. I have some kind of stomach ache most of the time, and so I don't eat enough, which is part of the reason I don't look like somebody who's about to happen. Everyone always says that Los Angeles is sunny, but mostly it's just dry. No weeds growing in the sidewalk cracks. Home always looked like nature was about to take the land back from us. Everything wet and humid and green and growing. In LA, even the green lawns looked parched. never enough water. Al asked me if I liked Keanu, and I told him I did, which was the truth. And I thought about one time when Keanu told me that a good life can fit entirely in your car, and a great life can fit entirely in your motorcycle. Is it on your motorcycle? I don't think it is, because like it's in the saddlebags of the motorcycle. Like you ride on your motorcycle, not in it. But I think your life fits in the motorcycle, not on it. But I'm not sure. The line is deeply dependent on that preposition, though. So, okay, everybody says on. Everybody says it's on. And are there any actual motorcyclists who can speak to this with some level of authority? That would be helpful. Proper biker gang. All right, a lot of people say it's on your motorcycle. So I actually think it's a better line that way anyway, because it's like there's a little bit more of there's a little less symmetry, which is a little bit of a better line. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit more. Al dropped us off at the Hotel Bel Air, and Ellen and I had to take 3 different elevators to get to my suite, which had a living room and a huge patio with its own miniature heated pool. I texted Juniper, "My room has a pool," and Juniper texted back, "If you turn the TV on and walk around the room, it follows you." So I turned the TV on. Romantic piano music played while the screen showed information about the Hotel Bel Air. Ellen and I walked all around the room, and the TV tilted itself to face us wherever we went. When I ducked, the TV rotated itself downward so that I could still see all of the information the Hotel Bel Air wanted to share about itself. After a while, Ellen got bored with the TV and went into the bedroom and sat down on the couch with her iPad out. I had a text from Bob that said, "Call me when you can, Andromeda update." I didn't really want to call him, though. Bob talked so much it was kind of exhausting, and I was a little dizzy from the plane. There was a bottle of champagne on the coffee table in there, and the couch looked beautiful but uncomfortable. Lots of right angles. I turned off the TV, and Ellen said, "We should talk about the movie." So I went into the bedroom with her and lay on the bed on my stomach. "The movie is really good." She said it like she was sorry. "But," I said. "No, but it's a great movie, and you're great in it." "But how do you feel about Juniper?" "I like Juniper." "Great." The truth was, I didn't know Juniper much. Most of my scenes had been filmed in Louisiana, and all of hers had been filmed in Canada. I'd only shot with her for a week, the part of the movie where I fly up to confront my dad about abandoning me to take care of this other kid, and I liked listening to Juniper. I liked watching movies with her, but I like listening to and watching movies with most people. "Are we doing anything after we see the movie?" I asked Ellen. "You're going out to dinner with Juniper at the only vegetarian restaurant on Earth with 2 Michelin stars, and I'm going to eat takeout Thai with my wife on the couch while we watch television and continue our long-standing argument about whether we can start a family when one of us travels so much for work. But back to Juniper. You like Juniper?" "Yeah," I say. Ellen checked her phone, stood up from the bed, and typed while talking. I'm going to put that in the past tense real quick, since I'm here. Why didn't I do that before? I think I had an idea at one point that it was going to be a tent jumpy thing, but I have that idea every time I write anything, and it's never a good idea. Ellen checked her phone, stood up from the bed, and typed while talking. "The movie is excellent, Kai, seriously, but nobody gives a shit about great movies with Latin titles that don't have robots or explosions. Like, I work for the studio. You realize that, right? I don't work for you. I exist to do what is good for the movie so that the movie will have its best possible life. Most of the time, this aligns with your interests, but not all of the time. Like, if I were a lawyer, I wouldn't be your lawyer. You understand that, right?" "Yeah," I said. Ellen tossed me her phone and said, "You see a pattern there?" It was Juniper's Instagram. A lot of pictures of her and me. Juniper transparently and authentically likes you, Kai. And you transparently and authentically like Juniper. And this transparent and authentic mutual admiration should be regularly reinforced to your followers, which Juniper has been doing magnificently. Wait, isn't it Katie, the publicist, who's doing the actual posting, though? Another thing you need to understand, Kai, is that Katie is Juniper and that I am you, at least for the next 22 days. The bed at the Hotel Bel Air was the nicest bed I had ever laid on, and I started wondering how many nights I could stay there consecutively before I ran out of money. I'd never had a lot of money, but I'd gotten almost $100,000 for the movie, and I hadn't spent any of it. I had enough from being in these 2 Lowe's commercials to cover the rent in the apartment where I supposedly lived. How much do you think this room costs a night? I asked Ellen. Are you listening? She asked. Yeah, sorry, what? Kai, the test scores for this movie are insane. Do you know what test scores are? I nodded, even though I didn't really. 92% top 2 boxes, Kai, 92%. So the scores are amazing, but the tracking is terrible because nobody knows the movie is coming out. Nobody knows what it's called because it's got a goddamn Latin title. People are tired of war, which makes them tired of movies about war. You can't possibly know how rare this is, how lucky you are to get a first movie that is pure gold and could be in the awards hunt and could make you the next Ansel or Timothy, but we have to get people to see the movie. So I should give you my Instagram password. Also Twitter, she said, and Snapchat. You aren't dating anyone, are you? Not really? No. Wait, what? I said. If you're not really dating someone, no, you're not dating anyone. Yes, you're single. No, you're not in a relationship. Right, yeah, I said. No, I'm not in a relationship. And I wasn't either. There was this girl in New York I'd been out with a few times, and she was nice. She was a student at Columbia studying anthropology. I'm not sure why I just said that she was nice. She was smart and interesting and attractive, but she was not nice. On our last date, in fact, she had called me fascinatingly undereducated, which stung because I am undereducated and I feel it all the time. Everyone knew more than me about everything. About wine and about strains of weed and about Russian literature and about French grammar. The reason I don't talk much is because I'm so stupid. I'm always behind in every conversation, especially in LA, where people talk as if the world were on fire and only their yammering could put it out. Kai, your socials. Yes? Are you literally not hearing the words I'm saying? I literally was not hearing the words she was saying. We've got your Insta and Twitter verified. Is this Facebook yours? She handed me her phone. I don't have a Facebook. Good thing we didn't get that one verified then. We'll get you a Facebook. You won't have to think about it. Listen, your socials are great. We just need to up the PPD a bit. I can post for you with your approval, of course. PPD? Posts per day. Listen, I know it's a lot, but when you see the movie tonight, you'll understand. It is a special film and you are a revelation in it, but we're not going to have $50 million to spend on ads, so we're going to be reliant on social. Okay, I said. So what's your Instapass? She asked. I gave it to her, and my Twitter too, and Snapchat. She stood up, rubbed my hair like I was a little kid, and said, I'll let you get ready. I'm so excited for you. While I was in the shower, Agent Bob called me and left a voicemail. I listened to it on speaker while lying in a Hotel Bel Air robe on the Hotel Bel Air bed. That bed was so nice, it made me feel like I was almost weightless, like I wasn't even in a body. Kai, it's Bob. I know young people don't listen to voicemails, but I got to tell you, kid, I'm so proud of you and what you've achieved. So excited for the future. I got a call from the head of the studio this morning, from the head of Paramount itself, and he said he saw the movie and you're a revelation. That's the word he used, revelation. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that's what my life is like all the time. It's that. They're as loud as they can be. They're like causing earthquakes. It's a revelation. What could they be doing? Like, are they cosplaying Andre the Giant? It's a revelation. Don't fire me when you blow up, okay? I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. We'll talk more on the lot tonight. I'm setting up a lunch with Brian. He wants to talk to you about Gods of Andromeda. Wants to test you on Friday. They just read Juniper for the lead. She smashed it. Wouldn't that be great? You and her working together again. Enjoy this, Kai. This is as good as it gets. You're about to absolutely explode. All right. Is it PE class? It could be. It could be PE class up there. Yeah, it's intense. It's intense up there. All right. Well, that was the first. I'm going to keep going, but that's where we were. And then I'm going to keep going, and then I might keep going again tonight, depending on how things go. I know a lot of you have heard this before, but I wanted to get it all on the good computer and all in a row without things messing up. So there's just a slight mess up of the incredible amount of noise upstairs. Al we already read that. That's all about Al dropping us off at the Hotel Bel Air. That already happened. Okay. It's not really hot in LA, even though the sun is always shining. The air feels like nothing on your skin. Los Angeles is the opposite of weather. I went down the 3 elevators, got lost in the winding paths of the Hotel Bel Air, and eventually found the entrance where the cars come and go. Several black SUVs were lined up, windows tinted. I wondered if they were full or empty. I was wearing black jeans and a Bouncing Souls t-shirt. Over by the valet stand, an old guy was smoking a cigarette. He was a famous actor, but I couldn't quite place his face or remember his name. William something? One of those guys who's been in 100 movies, but you don't really notice him. I wished I could just watch the movie alone in my hotel room or something. Ellen appeared and said, "Geez, thanks for dressing up, Kai." Wait, was I supposed to? You're fine. It's on brand, and we got to go. She told the valet her last name, and he pointed at one of the SUVs, and as we approached, Al got out and opened the door for us. "Hello again," I said. "Kai," he said, nodding and ushering me into the SUV. Al told us it would be 15 minutes to the Paramount lot, so I got out my phone. I had regrammed Juniper's picture of the plane, or Ellen had anyway. I don't know if regramming still happens, but also I don't know when this is set. I think it might be set in 2017, which can solve a lot of my problems, including like the current problem. It makes so much noise. I have to make Vlogbrothers videos like that. There were lots of hearts and smiles, lots of strangers saying that one or both of us were so beautiful. The best comment was, "Imagine being that plane and having Kai Laramie inside of you." I read it to Ellen, and she laughed and said, "You want to know the best part about that comment? I wrote it. Fangirl of Literally Everything is one of my burner accounts, Kai. Despite not existing, I have 12,000 followers over there, so I'm glad you like my work." Some actual friends also commented. One of my New York roommates, Natalie, wrote, "When did you become a Jenner sister? Congrats," with champagne poppers. I texted Natalie, "I am no longer in control of my Instagram. It is now the property of Paramount Studios." But she didn't reply immediately, so I texted Juniper. Hi, are you nervous?" "I'm something," I wrote, but she didn't reply. I asked Ellen how many fake accounts she had. Personally, 4, but we have people to help with that stuff. My phone buzzed. Juniper. "Sorry, I was just puking." "Really?" "Yeah, I always puke. I hate it. Katie says press is going to be there?" "Shit, really?" "Yeah, and Catherine and maybe Keanu?" Catherine was the director. "Now I'm going to puke," I wrote. Ellen looked up from her phone and said, "Apparently there's going to be a bit of press there. You won't need to talk to them except to say hello, but if you do accidentally end up saying more than hello to anyone, we're going to practice adjectives." "Adjectives?" "Yeah, adjectives, Kai. We'll save the proper media training for another day, but I assume you attended 4th grade and remember adjectives. So when press asks you about the movie or the cast or the people or your experience of the universe, you use adjectives. Juniper, for instance, is dreamy." "Juniper isn't dreamy," I said. It's a goddamn example." I could feel her nerves, and that made me feel mine. "Okay, you tell me the adjectives, and I'll tell you if they're good adjectives." "Keanu." "What?" "Keanu," she said. "Adjectives. Kind, smart, hurt, distant." "Hurt and distant are real bad, Kai." "Loving, supportive, mentor." Mentor is not an adjective, but it's good. Okay, great. Catherine. "Terrifying?" Terrifying is bad. Brilliant, bold, confident. Yes, she said. Dedicated, passionate. I love it, she said. Juniper. Is bad. I mean, I don't really know Juniper. We were on set together for like a week. I liked her? Ellen exhaled through her clenched teeth. Present tense, Kai. She is not deceased. You like her. I like her. Juniper is thoughtful, careful. Careful is not great, Ellen said. Caring is great, but I don't mean caring, I said. I mean careful. Ellen closed her eyes. What else? Worried? A slight shake of her head. Worried is terrible. Articulate? No, she said. Ellen was pressing her thumb and forefinger to her eyes now. She makes space for people, I said. Adjectives, Kai. Considerate? Meh. Beautiful. Oh, I like beautiful, she said. I bet you do, I answered. But you don't say that, Kai. You show it with your eyes, right? You're an actor, so say brilliant, hardworking, and hilarious, and the beautiful you show but don't tell. I didn't think Juniper was brilliant and hardworking and hilarious. I thought she was careful and worried and considerate. We turned into the Paramount lot, and the guard waved Al past. I could see Juniper and Katie the publicist and Janet the acquisition specialist standing together in the parking lot talking to Catherine, the director. 3 adjectives about everybody, Ellen said. Flattering but particular. Then you expand. Keanu is kind, smart, and supportive. Insert story here about his kindness, and so on. Yeah? Yeah, I said. The car had stopped. Al hustled out the driver's side door so he could come around and open my door. And even though I know how to open a car door, I waited for him and let him do it. Kai, my love, Catherine said as I got out of the car. She kissed me on both cheeks. Something smelled like coconut oil, her face or her lip gloss. I can't wait for you to see the movie. She hugged me, and I closed my eyes because I always do when I hug someone. But Catherine held on for so long that eventually I opened my eyes, and through Catherine's ash blonde hair, I could see Juniper, her face drained of color. She mouthed something to me. It took me a second to translate it. What she said was this: I'm gonna barf. And then she did, onto the base of a very tall palm tree. We all walked together with Studio Todd and Ellen leading. Catherine asked me how I was, and I said I was good, and she asked if I was still in New York, and I said yes, even though I wasn't sure if I was. Catherine was so good at name dropping that I couldn't even tell you how she turned the conversation to Nicki Minaj's new music video, which she had directed, and how the night before she'd been at Nicki's house for a party that went very late, and now she was hungover, hence the sunglasses. You know that I'm not a sunglasses person, she said, although I didn't know that. Have you tried those hangover IVs? Todd asked, and Catherine said no, she was afraid of needles, and Todd said he swore by them, that a nurse will come over to your house with a bag of saline and put the IV in, and 30 minutes later you feel ready for a run no matter how much you've had to drink, and Catherine said she'd keep it under advisement. We were walking down a fake block of New York City with fake shop windows. Everything on the lot felt slightly smaller than reality. The streets were narrow, the Spanish-style buildings too close to the sidewalk. It felt a little like you were walking inside a movie, which I guess is the point. We came to a sidewalk, and I could see a miniature marquee jutting out from a stucco wall that said, now showing Pro Patria Mori, which was cool. I walked over to Juniper, who was chewing what seemed to be several pieces of gum and looking at her platform sneakers, her face ashen. Look up at the marquee, I said, and she smiled a little. You okay? I asked. Everyone was just mulling outside the doors to the screening room, so I followed Juniper over to a bench where she sat down. Yeah, I think she was already on a bench. I think we can just cut that sentence. I think the enjoyment sector of my brain is dysfunctional, she said. Or it's just not that enjoyable, I said. I'm not prepared for the press. Katie didn't explain that to me, and so I haven't really gone through the talking points. I don't have answers for even the basic questions. I don't know what I want people to take away from the film. Hope, I guess, but that sounds idiotic. Maybe that the movie explores how human perseverance isn't naive, but is really the glory of our species. But that sounds a bit grandiose, you know? I hope that people feel grateful to our veterans, too political. What do you hope people take away from it? I don't really go to movies like this one, I said. I don't know why people watch sad movies. Well, Juniper said, that is definitely worse than my answers. Studio Todd's shadow arrived at the bench just before he did, and he said, the movie is a celebration of the human spirit and the power of love. And then Katie, the publicist, was there with us saying, Jesus Christ, Todd, do you write greeting cards for a living? We want people to leave the theater thinking that Juniper Stallworth deserves an Oscar. Can I get a little air? Juniper said quietly, and everyone took a few steps back. I started to stand up off the bench, but she grabbed my wrist and said, not you. Can you stay? And I said, of course. And she looked at me and said, I'm sorry if my breath smells like puke. And I said, it doesn't, even though it did a little bit. And she said, can we do this together? This? All of this, all of it. Can we just do it not alone, like the press and the... I like you, Kai. You make me feel less like barfing. Thanks. So can we just do this together? And I said, of course. When I looked up, I saw that Ellen and Katie were both taking pictures of us. Catherine came and sat between us then. She put an arm around Juniper and started half whispering to her. Listen, I know you're nervous, but they flew you out here on the Paramount plane because they love this movie. If they didn't, you'd be sitting in seat 23D on Delta, trust me. She stood up then. Catherine is a large woman, tall and always in heels. I know the word statuesque means something in particular, but Catherine is actually statuesque. As we walked into the theater down a long, dimly lit hallway, Catherine just kept talking to us. I hear Brian wants you both for Gods of Andromeda. He's a genius. I love him, like an actual genius. I told him you're both amazing, of course, that he had to hire you. You're both just about to absolutely explode. You know, he doesn't have an assistant, never has, answers his own phone. Isn't that wonderful? The best always have time for everyone. Speaking of the best, she said, and as we turned into the theater, there was Keanu. He was wearing tight jeans, a plain gray t-shirt, and a light jacket. People were surrounding him in an awkward half circle, but they parted when he stepped toward Catherine and hugged her. How are you? Catherine said. I haven't seen you since Kim's wedding. I've barely seen myself since Kim's wedding, he answered. He saw us and hugged us together and told us he missed us. He smelled like cigarette smoke. He'd chewed Nicorette the whole time we were in Louisiana, but without ever quite quitting. He told me during one all-night shoot, the thing no one ever tells you about smoking is how great it is, the jolt of giving into it. I need a cigarette, so I have one. Needing a cigarette is the only problem in my life I know how to solve. I'd asked him for a cigarette then, and he'd laughed so hard before saying, no way, kid. These are my kids, Keanu said to the people gathered about. They're so brilliant. I can't wait for you to see them in this film. The theater was small, maybe 25 seats. Katie, the publicist, Ellen, and Studio Todd made introductions. This is Caitlin, the editor of the movie. This is Jill from The New Yorker. This is Tyrell from The Wall Street Journal. This is Mark from Entertainment Weekly. Studio Todd walked Juniper and I to a row of seats in front of the press, and I sat down next to Juniper. Keanu sat a few seats over, and then everyone else filed in behind us. The already dim lights grew fainter, and I thought about the first time I met Keanu. The producers of the movie, Jenny and Lon, were in a van with me, and Lon was talking nonstop about how excited he was, how absolutely excited. Lon was absolutely everything, absolutely sure the movie would succeed, absolutely overjoyed to tell me I'd been cast, absolutely positive we did not need more coverage of that shot. The van stopped, and I got out last, and Keanu was standing there looking absolutely like Keanu Reeves. And he said, hey, kid, and then asked, you a hugger? And I hugged him around his waist, and he put one arm around me, and he said, I used to be 19. He said it like being 19 was a debilitating illness you only sometimes survived. which had more or less been my experience. Smoking is bad. Don't smoke. Of course, smoking is bad. If this video implies that smoking isn't bad, then I'll change that joke. I thought it was clear that smoking is bad. I'm opposed to smoking. Here's a little more. When the Paramount logo with that looming mountain in the background filled the screen, I felt a weird surge inside of me. Something like happiness, but not quite. Juniper squeezed my hand when my name appeared in pale blue out of the darkness, and then for a second we were holding hands, but only for a second. I wondered if Katie, the publicist, had photographed that, or nudged the reporter from the Wall Street Journal or something. In the movie's opening scene, Keanu and I are playing a video game together, and Catherine kept wanting me to move my body and arms with the controller, like I was trying to move the person inside the game by moving my own body. I didn't want to do it. It felt like my character wasn't the sort of person to make unnecessary movements of any kind. And in general, I wanted him to be really still, so there would be a big shift toward the end of the movie when he gets into a fight with his dad and is just flailing everywhere. But Catherine really liked this idea of me trying to move my arms to move the person inside the game. So I was trying to do it, but it felt awkward. And also, it was only our second day on set, and I felt like the crew and producers were getting mad at me. After a few takes, Catherine told everyone to take 10 minutes and brought me down into this other room in the house. Where we were shooting. It was a kid's bedroom, and the crew had all kinds of steel rigging in there, but we managed to find a corner of the twin bed to sit on. And Catherine said, 5 slow breaths, in and out, nice and deep. I was looking at some kid's New Orleans Saints poster, wondering if he was psyched or pissed that his room was being used by a Hollywood studio, and I took 5 slow breaths in time with hers. Here's a story Bradley Cooper told me once. She said, he's such a philosopher. He said, when a human has a fight or flight response, they often get stuck between fight and flight. The feeling is so new, it's so powerful, so overwhelming that they just stand there. It's not the decision that kills you, Kai. It's being between decisions. Yeah? Yeah, I said. It's like my all-time favorite Onion headline, Squirrel's Last Moments, Frantic, Indecisive. But today, my lovely squirrel, you will dart this way and that way, and you will survive. Catherine stood up, and I followed her. I sat down next to Keanu, and the crew returned to the cameras and lights. The boom guy picked up the mic. Camera speeding, sound speeding. Catherine said, fight, action. And I fought with my controller, moving my body in concert with my avatar on the screen. She let the scene run a little long until Keanu and I were improvising jokes, and then called, cut, great, we go again. Now flight, Kai, flight. And when everything was reset, she said action again, and I played the scene like I wanted to. Minimal movement, economy and everything, tight, close, interior. And when we were through the lines, she said, cut, beautiful, let's move on. Catherine used her version in the movie, of course, me moving the controller ridiculously around. It was a good scene, though. I found it really hard to watch the parts of the movie I was in because I couldn't stop thinking about my face and my voice and how I sounded like an idiot. There's a meathead jockness to my voice that I hate, something in the way I say words themselves. I'm not even a good athlete. I just sound like one. But the stuff with Keanu and Juniper was incredible. Your heart broke for her, this poor kid stuck with a shitty life and a dead father, and you could feel both the girl's rawness and her desire to conceal it. It made me think about how the most cynical people tend to be the most vulnerable because they can't afford to risk sincerity. The Juniper who was sitting next to me scribbled notes constantly into a tiny notebook. I kept looking down to try to see them, but it was too dark. I hadn't even thought to bring a pen and paper. Typical. I kept trying to figure out if the movie was good, but during my scenes, I mostly kept thinking about what was happening on the days we shot. I remembered the day Keanu invited me to his trailer to play a motorcycle racing simulator someone had sent him. I remembered the wet heat walking along the levee with him and how we kept having to wait for planes to pass in order to get the audio right. and Lon shouting from behind the video monitors, "These planes have cost me $12,000 today. Do you know what $12,000 will buy?" During the scene where my dad and I drink beer together, I remembered laughing with Keanu about the ridiculousness of the fake beer labels. Keanu offered to pay the props master whatever it cost to get some actual Corona on set. I changed the beer. I'm going to make Stella. And then I made fun of Keanu for liking terrible beer. And then Keanu said, "Can you even drink?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I can drink." And then he tilted his head way back and looked up at the ceiling while he laughed, like God had made the joke. I couldn't get my head into the actual movie at all, really, until the last 20 minutes or so, the part that Juniper and Keanu and I were all in together. It got so gut-wrenching that I forgot about what had really happened and who Juniper and Keanu really were, and even who I really was. There's a scene near the end with Juniper and me where she totally falls apart and she's sobbing and screaming into my shoulder. And it had been intense to film, but it was much more intense to watch. I just felt so bad for everyone. The movie is really about what you owe the people you love and how impossible it is to pay all those debts. And the whole thing just ripped me up until I started crying. I glanced over at Juniper and she was dabbing at her eyes, but I didn't see any tears actually. She looked really pretty, the light of the movie golden gray on her face. By the time the movie ended, I was really crying. I wasn't crying about the movie even. I was crying because the kids in the movie were so fragile, and because everything fragile faces the same fate eventually. Some people behind us clapped during the credits, but I couldn't tell if they were studio people or the journalists. The lights came up a little, and I was having a hard time stopping crying. Tyrell from the Wall Street Journal walked up to me with Katie, the publicist, and he asked me if I was all right, and I nodded and smiled. I didn't want to seem like the kind of person who cries at their own movie, but I just couldn't recover from it. "I don't know why I'm crying," I said. "I mean, I knew what was going to happen." Tyrell laughed and then said, "You must have given a lot of yourself to that performance." I shrugged. "Yeah, thanks. Juniper's great in it, isn't she?" "For sure, but you're a revelation." "Congratulations, Kai." Catherine emerged from somewhere behind me, grabbed me around the waist, and said, "What'd you think?" "I think it's good," I said. "The end really got me." "Yeah, it's that MIA song," Catherine said. "I heard it at one of Casey's famous pool parties and just completely changed the entire vibe of the moment. This fun, ridiculously over-the-top pool party was suddenly fraught. Everybody looked vulnerable. And I found Casey and asked him what the song was. It still rips my heart in two. Affleck, Casey Affleck. That might be a little too on the nose. I might cut that. All of us walked out of the theater together. The light outside was squintingly bright. The producers, Lon and Jenny, were sitting in a golf cart right outside the screening room. Jenny jumped up, hugged Catherine, and then asked Juniper, "Well?" "It's good," Juniper said. "I have some notes, but we can discuss later." "We'll grab a bite," Jen said. "Nothing's locked," Lon added as he got out of the golf cart. "Absolutely want to hear your notes. Did they tell you about the test scores?" Lon came over and gave me a hug and started to speak, but then he spotted Keanu over my shoulder and headed toward him. I reached into my pocket for my phone and saw that I had a text from Agent Bob. "Head of studio wants you to do the junket, including international. This is huge, Kai. Working on getting you a wardrobe now. Got a favorite designer? Call me." Ellen grabbed me and turned me toward the New Yorker person who asked what I thought of the movie. "I think I liked it. I've never really..." Ellen tugged on my arm and said, "One moment," and then pulled me aside and mumbled, "You don't think you liked it, Kai?" "I'm certain that I liked it," I said to the New Yorker, correcting myself, and the New Yorker laughed. "May God keep you innocent and honest," the New Yorker said, and then added, "How did it feel watching yourself?" I paused. "Exposed," I said. Ellen winced. "I can imagine," the New Yorker said. "Most actors, young actors especially, they mimic. They don't express fear or terror, they perform them. A kid's scream in a horror movie almost always says more about what movies that kid has seen than what fears they've known. But when you screamed at your father, I mean, even now I'm saying it as if it was real. But in a way it was real, wasn't it? I opened my mouth to answer, but Ellen said, obviously, Jill would like to profile you and knows the precise way to an actor's heart. Jill, we'll be in touch. I've got to get Kai onto this golf cart for a producer's meeting. I was ushered onto the back of the golf cart, which in the end fit only Lon, Jen, Juniper, and me. I was sitting backwards, so I watched myself pull away from Keanu and Ellen and the press. Lon said, we've got release dates now in 18 territories. 18, it's got a Latin title and 18 international releases. Last night, Jen says that dreams are just the brain's version of waste expulsion, but last night I dreamt that I was standing on the roof of my house and a B-52 bomber plane flew overhead, and I thought I was in a war zone, but then the bomb doors opened and money flew out from the sky and fluttered down all around me from absolutely every country on earth. Dollars, euros, reals, pesos, pounds. I have seen our future friends and it is absolutely multinational. Dreams are just the brain's version of waste expulsion, Jen said. Juniper has some notes. Yeah, let's talk them over at lunch. We've got a reservation, I guess at dinner. I don't know what time it is. That's the kind of thing I just don't care about. I don't think Keanu can join, but hopefully Catherine will stop by. Have we talked about the junket? The junket, I asked? The junket. Obviously one in New York and LA at the end of next week, as I'm sure you've discussed with your teams. But with so much international buzz, we're trying to capitalize. It's all happening quickly, but you'll want to keep your schedules minimal between here and the premiere because Europe looks a yes, Brazil looks a maybe. Kai, do you have a favorite designer? Juniper, you have someone, yes? Rodart. Kai, do you have some notes or is it just me? Juniper asked. Wait, when is the premiere? I asked. The premiere is Wednesday the 4th, Juniper said. Of October? Of November, Kai. Did Ellen not update your calendar? Did you like the MIA song at the end, she asked. We were getting off the golf cart now and into an SUV. Yes, I ventured as I crawled into the way back. Juniper joined me back there and said, really? I mean, I'm not a music supervisor, I said. Indeed, Juniper said. Indeed, you are not. Nor, for that matter, is Catherine. Jen, did you like the MIA song at the end? We already paid for it, Jen answered. But do you like it? She likes it. We like it, Lon said. The song isn't changing. Great song. MIA plays great internationally. Got to think about Brazil now and the UK. Juniper, MIA's in the sweet spot. Ripe for a comeback, strong international presence. Right, okay, but the song itself has been purchased, Jen finished. Well, said Juniper. Yes, I see. Shall we begin discussing notes? I feel like we already have, Jen answered. Juniper pulled out her black leather-bound notebook. So in the first scene between Malcolm and I believe there's a take in which I say axe murderer with more emphasis on the axe, which I think would play better. Like, I understand that Catherine didn't use it because my coverage was better in the less axey take that she did use, and I understand that choice, but I wonder whether we can be on Keanu when I say the axey or axe murderer and clock his reaction and then cut back to me, she said, and then continued to talk like that about almost every single shot in the film. Juniper had noticed several hundred things I hadn't noticed and had thought about thousands of angles I hadn't considered. She watched movies every night the way athletes watch film of old games. And while I'm sure that Lon and Jen found that 90 minutes excruciating, I was just astounded. How can someone notice so much and care so much? I can't remember even 1% of what she said, but like at one point she questioned the color correction of a scene that takes place in my bedroom because it made the windows look dark, when as she understood it, the point of the cinematography in that scene was that all the light was coming from outside because the house itself had become what she called a, quote, well of metaphorical darkness. They let her talk. Jen took notes. I ate a quinoa bowl with grilled vegetables once we arrived at dinner. Juniper had salmon and a lot of water. And then, as Lon placed a very sturdy-looking Amex card on top of the bill, he said, I guess he didn't have salmon because they're at a vegetarian restaurant. Fix it later. You're going to make it, okay. And then, as Lon placed a very sturdy-looking Amex on top of the bill, he said, Juniper, I love you. You're going to make a great director someday, but you are not directing this film. I'm not trying to direct it. We will absolutely pass along a version of all this to Catherine, Lon said. Absolutely. But listen, the movie is 92% top two boxes. Can it be better? Sure, Citizen Kane could be better. But 92% top two boxes, I've been doing this a long time. He's been doing this a very long time, Jen added. And this is only the second movie I've ever had that was over 90% top two boxes. The other was Moulin Rouge, Jen said. The studio shit the bed on the awards campaign, and it still won 4 Oscars. Should have won Best Picture, Jen said. Screwed out of it, but that's the Academy. I'm not going to tell Catherine to recut the entire film when it's 92% top two boxes, Lon said. But at least the cemetery scene, Juniper said. And listen, we're going to celebrate tonight. We'll come to you. The Hotel Bel Air has a great bar. Until then, maybe just get some rest. I know it's hard to see yourself up there on screen. I know this is a stressful process. It's stressful for me too. I'm not stressed, Juniper said. I want to make the movie better. And we want to make it better too, Lon said. And your notes will make it better. We will absolutely pass on a version of this to Catherine, Jen said. These are great notes, very helpful. But we also want to manage your expectations, Lon said. The movie is basically locked, Jen said, and we all need to be advocates for it. It's in everyone's best interest to love the movie. We're all on the same team here, Jen said. Yeah, Juniper said. Yeah, right, no, yeah, I get it. I think that's where I'll stop. Yeah, I'll read more another time, but I have been live for an hour, which feels like a lot of time to be live. And yeah, so that's the story that I've been working on. Again, if I would be happy if you would not share it outside of this community, because I don't want to have to deal with the wider world. But I'm going to leave it up as an unlisted video in case you want to share it with your friends or like people on Nerdfighter Discords or whatever. It was fun to read to you, really fun for me. It just felt like a process of discovery, as it does every time I read. I kind of wrote this way back in like 2010, 2011, when I was writing The Fault in Our Stars, and it was super helpful then. And it's been really nice now. So I hope that it can be a little glimmer of pleasure amid difficult days. And I'm just really, really glad that you're here with us, and really grateful to you for being here with us, and thankful in advance for you not sharing it widely. But yeah, thanks so much. And yeah, I look forward to reading all of your comments once I can look at them without having to talk at the same time. Yeah, all the names need to change. I was thinking that today when I was writing it. There's a bunch of names that need to change. Jen's name needs to change. Todd's name needs to change. It needs to be something funnier, like, no offense to any Kevins out there, but something along the lines of Kevin, something that hits harder, where people are like, oh, Kevin. What's a name that people like get mad when they say? Although I have a nice friend named Kevin, so maybe I can't do that. Yeah, some of the names need to change, but I like Kai's name and I like Juniper's name, so that's further along than I usually get. Yeah, no, Chad is too on the nose. Chad's too obvious. Everybody knows it's too much of a pre-existing thing. But yeah, there's still a long way to go, obviously, but it's been fun to read to you. Thanks for being here. And I look forward to doing this again sometime soon. Hey, last thing, Sarah's book, You Are an Artist, comes out tomorrow. I'm so excited for Sarah. This is obviously a difficult time to publish a book. Not the biggest problem the world faces right now, but it is. It's just such a wonderful book. It's called You Are an Artist. I have it right here. It comes out tomorrow. Ask your local library if they're carrying it. There's great audiobook and ebook versions as well that your library might have, so you don't even have to go to the library to get a free copy in a lot of cases. And if you can order it, I think you should. It's just a beautiful, fascinating book to help spark creation, and it's helped me to think about how to get ideas and how to make stuff as I've been working on this. So yeah, I hope you like the book as much as I do, and I'm so excited for Sarah. And yeah, it's just really cool. It's really, really cool to, after all these years of Sarah working so hard on this book, to see it real and here. It's exciting. All right, thanks y'all. Thanks for being here, and we'll do this again soon, hopefully. I'll try to give a little more warning. All right, bye.